Hey everyone, it's me, the guy that does the thing. You get it. Anyway, thought we'd do something slightly different and bring forward one of the deck profiles of the deck that we've been putting a fair bit of playtesting time into. The list that we're seeing here is ever so slightly different to the way it's been played. I'll point out those differences as we go, but nonetheless, I've probably been enjoying this deck more than most of the decks that we've been playtesting. People think this is going to be like the straw that breaks the camel's back. That means Soul Striker needs to get banned, because this leader is very reminiscent of the Soul Striker reboot leader, which is just stuck around in the meta since set 10. I don't think they're going to ban Soul Striker. Like, I get the logic behind people thinking that, but it's not breaking the game in any particularly bad way, but we will wait and see. Alright, so to go over this leader for anyone who doesn't particularly know much of what it does, it's coming out in set 16 in March sometime, but on the Unawakened side, its activate battle is, if this card is in battle and you choose one Saiyan card in your hand, discard it, draw one card, then add up to one card from your life to your hand, and then you negate the skill for the battle. The idea there is that we're wanting to filter as many Saiyans into our drop area, as well as accumulate good card advantage and cycling while doing it, so that we can ultimately just fuel our alternate awakened condition. So awakening wise, if your life is at 2 or less, which is not ideal, or we place 5 Saiyan cards under this card from the drop area, we draw 3 cards and switch one of our energy to active mode. Now, draw 3 cards, switch one energy to active mode. I don't know why they chose to do that. Like, drawing 3 cards feels really, really good, and just switching one energy to active mode on top of that, like, we could have been at draw 2 cards and this would have been fine. We could have been at draw 1, untap 1, it would have been fine, but we're getting the boon of 2 different awaken conditions in one. I'm not complaining, but why do that? It's a little overkill. Anyway, when we awaken, here's where people think this is reminiscent of Soul Striker, which it is, and why it's going to get banned, but when this card attacks, you draw 1 card, then switch one of your mono blue energy to active. So, pretty much the same thing Soul Striker did, but just 1 energy less, where that's doing 2, this is doing 1. It's still good value. Like, I understand that Soul Striker is always going to be better than this because of that constant 2 energy buff that it has, but honestly, this can still compete. Like, I wouldn't say this is a worse Soul Striker, I'd say it's just different. Now, its activate battle is where things get a little bit more spicy. So its activate battle is you place X amount of cards from under this, so we place 5 under our leader cards, so we can do this effectively 5 times during the course of the game. But we choose any amount of cards from under it, and it goes to the drop area. It gets plus 2k for the battle for each card that we place there. So we place 5, we go 10, we place 3, we get 6, 2, 4, easy math. Then additionally, if we place 3 or more cards using this skill into the drop area, then we can draw a card, then switch one of our mono blue energy to active mode. So I find myself particularly saving this for those clutch moments of where, like, I'm about to lose the game and I need an extra energy, so I might be tapped out and, you know, no D magics in hand, but I need to beam. Or I need to use this to be able to, like, bottom deck something. So all those clutch moments where I just need that 1 extra energy, or I need to go in for the kill, and I need to, like, optimize the amount of energy I have and just go for as much as possible. So, plus that extra beef of being able to gain energy for the attack, so you're basically getting a free combo. Essentially that's what it's doing, with the benefit of doing more. So that's the leader in a nutshell. Now, a lot of what we're seeing here is generic blue, so I'm not going to spend a great deal of time talking about a lot of the cards that are old cards, with the exception of some. But what I'll start with is these 3 here, which are coming out in the new set, which are from the core part of the way the deck functions. So this big beefy boy right here has enough keywords to last him a lifetime. He's got Deflect, Unique, Triple Strike, and Barrier. So just Deflect and Barrier is just kind of a gross thing on its own. Just you can't respond to it. Even if you could respond to it, it's got barriers, so there's nothing you can do. Nah. But for essentially what becomes 3 energy, you can negate the attack, play this card in rest mode. The reason why it can come down to 3 energy is because during your opponent's turn, you reduce the cost of this card in your hand by 1 for each card in your opponent's energy. So if your opponent has 3 energy, then it becomes a 3 cost, and that's as low as it can go because it does have a mandatory 3 blue cost that you have to pay. Then additionally, its second permanent is if your leader card is mono blue, and this card is in rest mode, your opponent's battle cards can't attack leader cards. So it kind of acts as like a pseudo deadly defender, if anyone remembers what they are from set 5, if you've been around that long. It's alright, like, you're not really going to be surviving or protecting yourself too much by relying on this permanent. More because it's only going to protect your leader from battle cards. Your leader's still good to go at your leader's unison is still good to go. So you'd think it'd protect you more than it does, like, is the way I'll put that. But the main thing here is that it does become a fairly big threat. Like, 20k triple strike is a pretty deadly threat to have on board, and the fact that it has barrier, there's not really a huge amount of things that's going to hit that. You've got Final Flash, which will just hit anything, but then outside of that, there's actually not a great deal of stuff that will interact with this. But this is also a means to an end, if you bear with me for a bit. Next card from set 16 that we've got running here is what is effectively the replacement for all the IAR, like Infinite Attack rare cards that came out in set 9. So with this one, if your leader card and all your energy is blue, you choose one of your cards and it gets 10k power for the battle, then you choose one. Now, before moving on there, the reason why I feel like this is a good replacement for the Infinite Attack rare that we got from set 9 is that this will choose any card. So that will include your Unison, your leader, or a battle card. Whereas those ones, at the time we didn't have Unison, so they will only realistically give you a buff to the leader card or a battle card. Plus this, I think, compared to the blue one, the Goku Kamehameha, I think this is more versatile. So we do the thing, then we choose one. If it's your turn, you choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost greater than their current energy, and you place it at the bottom of their deck. So we're hitting something big if they go really tall really early. Particularly good against stuff like the 6-drop Thwarting Gogeta. Like, they play it turn 1, sweet, I'll get rid of it turn 1. Is effectively what we can do with this. Then the other side of it is if it's your opponent's turn, you draw one card, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 2 or less, and place it at the bottom of your owner's deck. So this can be really good if you're wanting to, again, thinking of that Gogeta Xeno matchup, if you're wanting to get rid of like one of the Vegetas or one of the Gokus, we can do that during their turn now, which is a really good utility. So this card I've got at 3. I honestly think I'm probably going to just bumping it up to 4, because the card is just generically that good. The only reason why I haven't got it at 4 is because there's a fairly good amount of spot removal in the deck already. And as far as what makes the deck as consistent as possible is keeping your Saiyan count as high as you can. So you can get a clunky hand if you get too many extra cards, I find, even though all of our extra cards, all 11 of them, are very, very proactive. So the last card from the new set I'll go over is SS Vegeta, the Interceptor. So it's a dual attack 20k body, which is fan-flippin-tastic. It's a bit odd, considering that in counter timing you can play this card. That feels a bit awkward trying to do that. Like, it'll come up, but because it doesn't reduce its cost in hand, you gotta keep 3 open if you want to do it. And in my opinion, there's probably better things you can do with that energy. Unless it's like a really clutch move. Like if it's a really clutch move, go for your life. The bonkers thing about this, I feel, is that its auto is when you play this card, you choose up to 2 of your opponent's battle cards and bottom deck them. So without any cost restriction in there whatsoever, this card is just fantastic. Like, You build them up on board, your opponent's gonna have like a hard time dealing with them. So that kind of wraps up the new stuff. I've got a bunch of the new stuff in the sideboard that I've got here as more things to talk about, but not necessarily things that I want to see in the deck. These 5 battle cards, they essentially serve the same purpose, where they all have their unique thing about when they're played, or when they do this, they do that, but they all share the same secondary auto, which is this one here. So if your SSG Son Goku Crimson Warrior is in battle and there are no cards in your combo area, when your leader card skill places this card in the drop area from under your leader card, you can combo with this card from your drop area. So all 5 of these essentially share that exact same auto. The Vegeta and the Trunks. Now, I understand the synergy that's there, so the idea is that we can do whatever we want with these, get them into the drop area, and then we can place them under our leader card. Now, while that's nice and all, the amount of blue stuff that we have in here to just get the deck to compete as a high level as possible, I feel there's not enough room to warrant taking anything out to put these back in where these will do what they do better, if that makes sense. Probably sounds really bloody confusing, but essentially, I don't think they're good enough to warrant replacing other cards in the deck, is essentially what I'm saying there. I could be wrong. I could, people could find, little synergies where these become, busted. If you do, drop a comment below and tell me that I'm, a complete dum-dum and I'm wrong. Happy to be told I'm wrong. But that's just my take on them. Now, the other card, which is nice for being early game, is the Legend of SSG. So, activate main, burst 1. If your leader card is blue and you choose 1 blue Saiyan card in your hand and discard it, you draw 2 cards. So, it's good for filtering, but the awkward thing is that you have to specifically choose a blue Saiyan card in your hand. And as we go to late game, this can get a bit dangerous, because you do a lot of drawing and a lot of filtering in this deck, and you get really low in your deck really quickly. You'd be surprised. But ultimately, for the 1 energy where you'd ideally want this early game, I feel like this Unbreakable Super Saiyan Son Gohan achieves it better. So this will draw you 1 card and equal 1 Saiyan in the drop area, which is essentially the same thing that this guarantees. This will burst 1, but you could burst a Unison, you could burst Fu, you could burst an extra card. You're not guaranteed to hit a Saiyan. This will also allow you to out-combo something. So the way that we found we played it best is turn 1, you leave your energy open during your opponent's turn, and then when they swing into your leader, you're comboing this, you're drawing a card, you're getting a Saiyan in the drop, and then you can utilize your Activate Battle on your Unawakened side during your opponent's turn to get another Saiyan in the drop and draw another card. So, with what this wants to achieve, it's not needed. Just plain and simple, it's just not needed. So, to kind of wrap up the rest of the deck profile, a lot of what you're seeing is generic blue, right? So, you've got your Unison, you've got your Super Combo, you've got... Essentially, we looked at the blue Saiyan pool and just got whatever will make the deck work as strongly as possible. So, you've got 4 Vegeta Super Combo. You've got enough untapping in the deck where playing Zeno is kind of not needed, and Zeno's gonna... it's not a Saiyan, so it's not going to really work towards the strategy. You've got 4 God Ceiling because we are blue, we run Saiyans. 4 God Ceilings is kind of a must. We've got 4 of the Goku Blocker that came out in set 14. This, honestly, it's probably one of my favorite cards, because turn 3 we can just start hammering these things down for 1 energy, and it's a cantrip. So 1 energy, draw a card, get a body on board, and this guy has Deflect and Blocker. So and it hasn't got unique, so you can just pile them up, go for your life. What's not to love? Then, as far as wrapping up those Saiyans go, we've got Baby, we've got the Big Boy, which I might actually stop now and cover off this guy. So this is one of the game enders. This is an old card from set 3. So the idea is that this evolves into this. So we get the other guy on board, he's got barrier, so he's most likely not going anywhere, and then if we're going in for the kill, we've got this big boy. So for 2 blue energy, and you place 1 card in your hand in the drop area, you X-evolve this over a blue Son Goku with an energy cost of 5 or more. Its base stats are triple strike, 35k, and then we get to the bonkers parts. It's got a permanent that says your opponent can't combo for the duration of this card's battle, and when this card evolves into, or when a card evolves into this card, return all of your opponent's battle cards to their owner's hand. Now, I know it doesn't say ignoring barrier, but the correct ruling on this is because this does not choose any card, it just simply returns everything. It will get around barrier. So that's the way it's been ruled since set 3 when barrier and this card came out, as well as the Kaba that came out in set 15. That has the exact same wording structure where it's returning something or hitting something, it does not choose anything, and the way that has been ruled also is the fact that it gets around barrier by not choosing anything. So long as your opponent doesn't have a counter, this card's gonna win the game. Like, if they're at 3 or less life, of course, like, they can bean, they can use any extra card to gain power, but this card's realistically going to win the game if used correctly. Now, outside of that, like, the only really noteworthy things we've got, like, Baby Hatch is our secret rare of choice. I know it's not a saying, but in saying that, unless Bandai bring out any other, like, game-breaking generic blue secret rare that's going to fill the slot better than Hatch does, I'm still gonna run Hatch. And of course, like, if we're at like turn 5, we want to get to turn 6 to be able to drop Fu and then X-evolve this over that. Like, Hatch will get you there. Simply said, Hatch will get you there because it says no more attacks. And then the last of like the counters that we've got for Heroic Prospect. I'm not a huge fan of this card, mostly because the longer the game goes, the worse the card gets. But it's a Saiyan, so it really helps towards the overall theme of what the deck does. And we've got 2 Ultra Instinct Son Goku, the Unstoppable. So, main reason why this card's in here is for those really, really clutch moments where, like, you need to hit something and you, like, can't let it be stopped. So because this card has a permanent skill that says this card's skill can't be negated in any area by your opponent's skills, it means stuff like the Baby Ape counter, the Cooler counter, the Piccolo red-blue counter, they can't negate this card's skills. So by the fact that it's sedating in any area that includes your hand, your battle area, your drop, everywhere, effectively. So this is going to go through no matter what, and then its auto is when you play this card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, return it to its owner's hand, and if it's your opponent's turn, you draw 1 card. So it's there for when we need to hit something. Last couple of cards, we've also got this in here. It is also a Saiyan, so it does fit the theme, but it's activate main for 1 blue where you're discarding it and you're bottom decking 2 3-cost or lower battle cards. With the amount of, I guess, board presence that can build up, like in this deck, you can be hitting the Vegetas, the Heroic Prospect, like all those cards that kind of just accumulate. The Yamchas, the Mecha Freezer, all the little, I guess, 3-cost Son Gokus, the blockers. It's a good way to get rid of them so they're not a nuisance. So that's battle cards. Battle cards are good. Extra card wise, it's simple stuff. We've got 4 D-Magic because D-Magic is still like hands down the best blue negate in the game. And then we've got 4 Sensu Bean because Sensu Bean will never die. And they'll never ban it. People who say it's going to get banned, you're wrong. I could be wrong eventually. Don't hate me if I am. Last thing to cover is realistically just the Unison cards. So there's a couple of trains of thought here. I feel Hit is better for what this deck tries to achieve than Baby. Baby generically is better because it's a +2, draw 1, and then its -5 is just kind of off its head crazy. But Hit being able to come through turn 2 and make your Trunks live, like both Trunks, Heroic Prospect, and God Sealing live turn 2, I feel is better than having it out turn 3. And then the last one here, I may not even keep this in because there may not be a need for it, but I've got two Boo Unison in here as well because Boo is just still such a solid card. Now, that sums up the deck. I've probably done a crap ton of talking, and a lot of it may not make sense. I'll have the link to this deck profile in the description below. But, if you stuck around this long, I'll name my next child after you, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.